Welcome to Here Where You Belong, your go-to podcast for exploring belonging with your host and belonging expert, Dia Irby. We are thrilled to have you join us. Together, we'll dive into the depths of what it means for each of us to find our own place in the world, whether it's within our communities, our relationships, or within ourselves. Today's episode is meant to inspire, uplift, and remind you that no matter where you are or where you're headed, you have a place where you truly belong. So grab a cozy spot and settle in. Welcome to Here Where You Belong.
Hey, all you fabulous people. I'm so excited about today's episode on Here Where You Belong. I have a fabulous guest that I can't wait for you to meet and hear from. Gail has been a friend. We've never met in person, but we are internet buddies. And let me just tell you a little bit about Gail. She is fiercely committed to guiding driven, successful people to take action in their natural abilities. She's a proven speaker and trainer who can guide you to address how you solve problems, the questions to motivate you, and what will stress you out. That's important to know. What really excites Gail about her work is knowing that every single person is created with a pattern of taking action that doesn't change over time. And this pattern predicts the path which leads to their purpose. Well, I'm just going to let Gail say anything about herself that I haven't said and let you introduce yourself. Gail Swift, introduce yourself.
Thank you, Dia. I have to say that it does feel like I've met you, and several times, even though we've never met in person. We've known each other for, I think, a few years now, and it's just so great to talk to you, and I'm so thankful that you asked me to be on your show. It is an honor, and I'm looking forward to sharing. Yeah.
So I am excited because I'm talking about belonging, and that's our focus. But what you do, the work that you do in helping people identify their patterns, it makes a big difference in how they feel like they belong in the world. Explain again to me, because I don't want to say it because I'm going to get it messed up. And also explain to people what you mean by the pattern and your whole system and all that awesome goodness.
Yes, absolutely. Sure thing. What I mean by that is it's called a Kolbe result. I'm trained to read Kolbe tests, Kolbe. And what that identifies in you and anyone in the world is how you take action when there's a problem you want to solve. You're born with a way of taking action. It's innate. It's just as innate as which hand you're going to use to write. It does not change over time. The other two parts of the mind can change. What you know can change and what you like can change. But how you solve problems does not change. So I found that when people know how they work and they can stand up for themselves, they try less to fit in or prove because they already have confidence in what they're doing. So that's what I do. And I help people understand what that looks like.
That's amazing. And it's so in line with what you feel like is your greatest accomplishment, that you have been true to yourself. Tell me a little history about how did you discover this? Or do you personally how does this relate to you personally? And How did you get into this?
I'll tell you, so many years ago, my family, we would go to a vacation place. It's probably one of my favorite places on earth. It's called White Birch Lodge. And it's in Elk Lake, Michigan. And it was a great place where I learned to water ski, and we would learn to just ski and tube and play square dances, and the bell would ring and the meals would be served, and my brother and I could eat as much as we wanted, and my parents would be on the beach, like reading a book. It was a vacation for all. It was such a great place. And every summer we'd go the third week in August, and it was my dream to work there. It was my absolute dream to work there. And when I was a sophomore in high school, I applied to work at White Birch Lodge, and I got accepted as a high school student, which was really cool. However, I would say that was that was one of the most stressful periods of my life because my parents were getting a divorce. And I don't know if it was the teachers or my parents, but growing up, I felt that the way that I worked wasn't well received. I was bullied. I didn't have a ton of friends. I knew people in different friend groups. I was called a lot of names, and I didn't feel like I belonged at all. And that time at White Birch Lodge was a tipping point because I was in the ski show. The ski show was on Friday night, right? And this was a big deal. So I practiced. I was the bottom pyramid. I was on the right-hand side, and I fell actually right when the boat took off, and I fell in the ski show, and my mom was there and my brother was there. And it was like the last straw, right? It had ruined everything. Like I wanted to work there, and I fell in the ski show, and it was just a really, really hard time in my life. And I didn't feel like I belonged. And I realized afterwards, Dia, I didn't feel like I belonged because I tried to be someone else when I went there. I
Mm.
tried to be like the cool kid, the one that everyone liked. So not only was I not confident with myself, but I tried to be the cool kid, which made it even worse because I wasn't being authentic, right? So because I didn't know my strengths, I didn't know what I had to offer. And that time was super important because then my mom took me to a person that does what I do now and told me for the first time what my strengths were and how I normally took action. And it was different from my parents and it was different from my teachers. And for the first time ever, I was told that that was okay, which was huge.
Yeah. Which, knowing that that's okay
Mm-hmm.
is amazing. It reminds me of your phrase that you said is one of your favorite phrases, mercy over judgment. When we can show mercy to someone for their uniqueness and what their pattern of operation is that may be different than other people, and they're not judged, that helps people feel more comfortable and confident in who they are, but also feels like they belong. So is this also a story about when you didn't feel like you belong, or do you have another story about that?
I think they go hand in hand. I think when people don't feel like they belong, they start to judge
Ooh,
because, right, that was me. I was like almost arrogant, even though I was super insecure. So that could be kind of a mask. Like if someone isn't, you know what I mean? Like,
totally.
um, and so I think I was judgy and arrogant because I felt so insecure. And I think that was what I was trying to, I don't know, stand on to puff myself up like a bully almost,
Mhm.
where
Like
you
if you
just,
can push other people down,
yeah,
then that makes you look taller
like
or
somehow
better.
that made me look better. And so I was judging everybody for how they worked. And it wasn't until I got into what I do now and Jesus got a hold of my life like
Sure.
18 years ago, right, that things changed. Like things completely changed for me. And judging people, when I was judging them, I wasn't giving them the freedom to be themselves, which is what I was fighting for. I wasn't congruent. It wasn't working. Things weren't adding up. So I
I think
changed.
you've probably hit on the root problem of all bullying everywhere, that people that bully often have come out of being bullied.
Mm.
And I'm going to turn that around, and I'm not going to take it anymore, and I'm going to put other people down so I can feel good about myself. It would be interesting to find out if there is a bully out there that is not insecure.
I would agree with you 100%.
And so, explain more about the Colby method and the differences that you discover that people have.
Right. So in real life, like my parents are very into the details, right? And they're into a plan. And I'm not. I just kind of go and then I think about the details later. That's how I work. And but growing up, it was like, well, Gail, pumpkin, what's the plan? Did you do your research? Did you think about this? And the answer was no. But enough of those questions would lead me to believe that there was something wrong with me if I wasn't thinking about the details or if I wasn't thinking about the plan. I started to wonder if maybe my way wasn't the right way. And I tried to change or alter this unaltering gift in me, this unchanging way that I work. I tried to change it to please those around me because I was constantly put in a situation where I had to come up with a reason, justify my answer. And that was extremely difficult for me.
It's exhausting. It's probably the same feeling that there was a time in history where if you were left-handed, people
Yes.
thought that was evil, that there was something wrong with you, and they would make you learn to use your right hand because you're not supposed to be left-handed. That was of the devil even, and sinister. So it's the same thing. If you are more of a visionary, let me jump in the water and then figure out how to swim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I relate to that. Then, you're going to be totally frustrated if people say, no, but you have to watch this 3-hour movie about how to swim and the people in history that have done the English Channel or whatever before you can do anything. Then
Yes.
you're denying who you are and what you're made to do and not appreciating your gifts.
You're so right about handedness because handedness is innate. And one of the exercises I use in working with teams or families is I say to people, write with your non-dominant hand. How does that feel? It feels
Mm.
awkward and uncomfortable. Well, that's exactly how it feels when you tell someone to go against their grain. Awkward and uncomfortable. So that is absolutely a crime that those left-handed people were made to write with their right hand. That is so stressful. And I feel for them. Like that is hurtful.
Well, that does give you more mercy
Yes.
than judgment just say to yourself, oh, they're left-handed. I mean, if you're right-handed, but if you're
Right.
left-handed, you can say, oh, they're right-handed. Just kind of like, okay. I mean, they're not being judged. They are who they are. Just they're other-handed. Oh, yeah. just tell yourself when somebody's really different, oh, they're other-handed.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so easy to get what you deserve. I think everyone kind of expects people to get what they deserve, or they're secretly hoping they're going to get what they deserve. It's super uncommon for people to when they don't get what they deserve, which is mercy, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Like the mercy is remembered when you show grace and favor to someone that doesn't deserve it. That person's going to remember that. At least I do. I've remembered that because people have shown mercy to me when I deserved judgment, and it's made an impact with others.
Well, it made you feel like you belonged.
Yes, completely.
And the belonging, yes, you want to feel part of a group and belong to a community, but
Mhm.
basically there are people that don't feel like they belong on the earth, that they don't feel like they belong to exist.
I know.
And so how can we help, or how do you reach out and help people? What you're doing is helping people understand how they operate and their unchanging operations. What are the different, or are there different kinds of categories of patterns of operation? Like, give us some examples of the different, like detail or
Yeah.
big
So
picture.
there are 4 different categories, and there are people that need detail and people that don't need detail. That's the first category. We'll call it red. The second category is blue. So there are those that are very organized naturally, and those that can skip steps and cut through bureaucracy and not finish everything you start. And then that's a blue line. And the green line, the third line, is your need for risk and uncertainty. And some people have a need for a lot of risk, and other people don't have a need for a lot of risk. They want to keep things pretty status quo. And then the last line is implementer. And this is someone's need to get their hands on the world, to actually touch and feel the world, experience it with their hands. And then other people don't. Like people, they can get under car and change their oil or grow a garden. And others will hire people to change their oil and buy vegetables at the store, which is me, right? That's me,
Yes.
right? You too. So we use our gifts in different orders when there's a problem we want to solve that we care about. And
Okay.
I just want to go back to what you said, first of all, about the people that feel like they don't belong. That was a true stark statement. And that is not true. That is not true, because I definitely believe and know that every single person on this planet there's a reason that they're here. There's a reason why they're here. And that is a lie from the pit of hell that they feel like they're not here, because they do belong and they do have a place and a purpose on this earth. I just want to say that.
How, yes, how can we make sure they know that? You know, you and I both agree, but the person that feels that way, that's believing that lie, that's been brainwashed into thinking if they're not a certain way, like in high school, even, you know, if you don't look a certain way, or you don't dress a certain way, or you're not the star on the athletic team, you know, you don't belong, or you don't have worth, or there's nothing about you. Every person that is born in this world is uniquely who they are, with their gifts, for who else in the world needs them to be who they are.
Right. They need to look up. They need to look up instead of around, because if they're looking around at everyone else, I mean, for validation or comparison, like we're all equal. We're all equal. Like they need to look up to the person that made them, because that's where the peace comes from. That's where the belonging comes in. I can walk into a room as different as I am with the peace and understanding that I belong to God. I am a child of His first and foremost. That's my ultimate kingdom. That's where I belong. Nothing else matters to me. Nothing else matters. And I don't compare, because every single person has a gift. And who am I to judge? No one. Absolutely no one.
Hey there! Isn't my guest amazing? So glad you joined us today. In this world that often feels disconnected, building community and fostering belonging are essential. That's why I created this podcast, to bring inspiring people to you, to encourage you to create that sense of belonging and community, no matter where you are. If you're being blessed by my guest, and we have some more, like, subscribe, and share this podcast. You know who needs to hear this. Stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember, you belong. Now, back to our amazing guest.
So that's big picture kingdom mindset for me.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. Well, there was an expression that went around a long time ago, probably: God don't make no junk.
No, right?
So
Mhm.
however you're made, if you don't accept your uniqueness, you're criticizing or dissing the creator.
Right.
And yeah, so we need to know that if we're here, we belong here. But here's the thing, we do need to find our people.
Yes.
Nobody can fit or belong everywhere.
True. True.
So if you feel like you don't belong, maybe you're shopping in the wrong store.
That's a really good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. Where would you tell people to go and figure that out? What would you say?
Talk to Gail and find out what your pattern is.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, part of it is trial and error.
Right.
What are you interested in? So, I had a conversation with someone about joining a business group,
Mm-hmm.
a networking group. She went to one and it was horrible. They were boom, boom, boom. And nobody even said, hey, are you a visitor? How are you doing? Well, the people that are very detail oriented and want to go through everything, that would be good for them. But
Right.
did she give up on a network business? No, she tried another one. And the first person that saw her was the president. Oh, hey, are you a visitor? Welcome to. And so she knew she found her people.
Right.
So if you, I guess what I'm saying is that if you find yourself somewhere where you don't feel like you belong, you may not, because they're not your people.
Right.
And it's okay for a group of people to not be your people.
Yes, it absolutely is okay.
And if you waste your time trying to fit in, maybe changing who you are to fit in, then you're missing out on finding the real group that is the right fit.
That sense of belonging is a hierarchy. Like, that's in Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Right.
That need to, that's in us, a need to belong. Like,
Yes.
That's as innate as what I do.
Exactly.
The need to belong is innate. So the need to belong is innate. And so I think people will sell out. I did. I sold out in school to belong. Like, I will sell myself short. I ignored myself. I ignored my gifts to belong. So that's a super strong emotion and need that we have. So I'm thinking, how do we reverse that? Because you know what I mean? How do we reverse it? How do we recognize that we have the strength to choose? And it's not, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That takes a certain confidence.
Right. Right. Well, speaking of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, he's got it at number 3. The
Okay.
first is food, clothing, and shelter, and then security. You know what? Sorry, Maslow. I think belonging is the foundation.
Right.
I think it's the first one, because if you are somewhere where you find belonging, you can have any kind of shelter. You might even be able to survive without food and clothing for a while, but you can have peace if you know you belong.
Dia, I just met with an educator the other day, and I'm working with a family, and the child's different, right? He's super smart, wicked smart, but he's different than the teachers. So he felt like he didn't belong. He's in 4th grade. He felt like an outcast. He couldn't do anything right. He was getting into trouble. And the mom moved him to this amazing school. And I just met with the owner of the school and showed the teachers the Colby and how he works. So they said, Gail, this took 6 weeks off our learning curve for this child. So he came in and he started school, and based on his Colby report, they asked him questions, and everything he answered was exactly what the report showed that he would do. He sat by a window, he made his own space. So they encouraged him based on his own abilities, and he loves his new school. He absolutely loves his new school. Right. There's nothing wrong with him. Right. So it was literally finding out where he belonged and camping there and being there, which is great. I'm so happy to hear that. Yeah, I know. Isn't that just warm your heart?
Beautiful.
I
Yeah.
know.
What
love
great work. Oh my goodness. The difference that you can make in working with somebody with the Colby methods or systems, or I know
But
it's
it's,
Colby,
yeah, no, that's good.
but all of us, going back to your phrase, mercy over judgment, just
Mhm.
stop and step back and accept people
Mm.
for who they are. And if they have been rejected, they're going to have this hard shell and layers of protection that they've learned to put up. So that person that at work, that is the most difficult person. Nobody
Mhm.
wants that person on their team or their committee because they're so difficult. Stop and get to know them. And maybe you can peel through the layers and find out who they really are. We don't know what's behind that face.
So I want to hear your opinion on this. I have an opinion I'm going to share, and then I want to hear your opinion. So why do people tell other people like what to do or how to do it? Why do you think that is?
Well, part of that could be, in my opinion, impromptu, is that that person wants their world to be a certain way for them to feel comfortable. And so if you will do this way, then I will feel comfortable that everything's done right.
Yep. Okay. Got it.
That's one. And then there are just some people that are just bossy. You know, you got to do it this way. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that they don't believe everyone else is capable. I think somehow they believe, I mean, like I did, that your way is the best way, and that they don't know that the other person can get it done.
Oh, you have to help them because they're so stupid.
Kind of, right? But that simply isn't true. Now, the motivation might not be there like it is for you, but that person is just as capable of getting it done. See, Colby is just the way you get to the store. So, Dia, if you and I were 8 years old and we're like, you know what, let's go to the gas station and get some gum. And you're like, I'm going to rollerblade or ride my bike, right? And I'm like, I'm going to skip. However we get there because we both want the gum at the gas station. But the Colby identifies how we're going to get to the store to get the gum. That's it. But we're both going to get there. So when the motivation is the same, then you can release the grip and let people work their way because you'll know they're capable. So that's what the Colby identifies, how they're capable to get the job done.
Oh, yes. And I did pick up on one of those things that some people, don't finish?
Yeah, some people don't need to finish what they start. I don't. I don't need to finish what I start. Projects and piles. Is that you too?
Maybe.
And that's great. You belong.
Yay, I belong.
So your contribution, that's a contribution, by the way. And I'm going to tell you how. It's a contribution.
Please.
I know. Because people have a hard time believing. They're like, how is that a gift, Gail? Like, I feel like I always have to make it different. Like, that's wrong. You should finish what you start. No, actually, that's what your mother told you. Anyway, you can choose. So what you bring to the table is you can cut through bureaucracy, right? You can skip steps. You go right to the top. You might cut out the middleman, and you also shorten the process. So why does something have to have 5 steps when it can have 2? And you can get it done in 2. But the point is, there are people that will make the process, and for them, that's awesome, right? But you don't need to follow that series process. You can do it in 2 steps. As long as you get to the store, what difference does it make?
Get the gum.
Get the gum. It doesn't make a difference how you get there. So that is a gift. Your shortcutting is a gift. Seriously.
Okay, so you still have to get to the store. You can't quit before you get to the store.
If you want to, do you want to get to the store?
Maybe I just like thinking about maybe going that way, but then I find this other place to go instead.
Well, then that would tell me that the store wasn't important enough for you to get to.
There you go.
And that the other thing is more important. And that's where you belong.
Oh,
you belong. That's where you belong. You belong at the other destination because that's the one tugging at you.
So what do you see are maybe the top 3 things that you would do to help someone feel like they belong?
Wow. So if you don't believe that you belong, I would say you can borrow my belief and Dia's belief that you do belong. So just trust us when we are telling you that you have a place in this world. You were born with a purpose and for a purpose. So borrow that belief if you don't believe it yourself. That's the first thing I would do. Borrow the belief of what Dia and I believe because we are on the same page with that. Okay. The second thing I would do is try and find your tribe. Try and find your tribe with a small action item. I mean, super small action item. That could just be looking it up online. It could be looking it up on your phone. It could be going there for even 20 minutes. You don't have to stay for 2 hours, but checking out to see if it's your tribe. Because when you do that, you're giving yourself the freedom to choose and the power to decide. And when you're giving yourself that freedom to choose and power to decide, that's going to build confidence because you're going to come out of that situation with a yes or a no. And that's going to be your decision, which will fuel the next one. You agree with that, don't you?
Totally.
Yeah. Keep going. What were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say that it reminds you that it's your choice.
Yes.
You're not looking for other people to affirm your belonging.
Right.
You do belong, and you're saying, is this the place? Yes or no. Is this the place? Yes or no. You have that empowerment.
Exactly.
You do belong.
Right.
So walk in there and see if they're the right place.
Right. The third thing I would say is self-love. Self-love. Like, you're worth it. Find a little bit of that. Like, know that you're worth it. Again, if you have to borrow that belief from Dia and I, you can do that. But self-love, give yourself a little bit of kindness in this journey because you're not meant to be here forever. And you're going to be telling your story on this podcast in a few months or a few years when you take those steps. Excellent.
Tell me more about what self-love means. You know, there are some people that, oh, that's so self-centered. That's so me. You're not the center of the universe. You shouldn't, how do you Tell me more about.
I would say self-love. I say that is kindness, just kindness and compassion for your mistakes, your foibles. If you walk into this new place and you trip, or you walk into this place and you spill a drink, or you don't feel like you have the appropriate outfit on, like be a little gentle with yourself is what I mean when I say self-love. Like just a little compassion and kindness for yourself, for sure. Because when you have that for yourself, you're also going to have that for others. So just
That's true.
a little kindness and compassion for yourself.
Which goes back again to mercy over judgment.
Yes, we love that phrase.
We do.
I do.
And which is antithetical to a person that's a bully because they're not showing other people mercy because they're not showing themselves mercy. So you can be merciful with others to the degree, there's this famous verse that says, love your neighbor as yourself. Well, if you don't love yourself, I mean, if you're going to be loving your neighbor the same way that you love yourself and you don't love yourself, then how are you going to love your neighbor?
Right. Exactly. When my kids were little, I used to say, bring the bully a cupcake.
Yes. Yes. Break through one of those layers.
Right.
Excellent. Excellent. Gail, I can totally see how the Kolbe method would be beneficial to every person that is born on this earth. And especially to teachers who need to understand how to work with students to help them be their best self and not try to squeeze them into this is how we do it. You sit here, you do this paper, you this.
Right.
How can people find out more?
Yes.
And we're also going to put in the descriptions below this, but tell us how and what you can offer to who you work with, how to tell us what we need to know.
Absolutely. So you're going to put my email and my phone number down there. My website is plans2prospercoaching.com. And I would say for anyone that reaches out based on this podcast, I'll give them 15% off of an index and an interpretation from me.
That is amazing. So what is that process like?
So if you reach out to me and say, you know what, I just listened to your podcast and I'd love the 15% off, then there's a link that I would send you for an assessment. And then we get together and meet on Zoom. It's a recorded Zoom session. And there are probably about 6 different pieces of information that we go over about how you work, your productivity, procrastination, communication, your triggers, what stresses you out, how to be in your lane, and how to build confidence your way. All of those are covered.
So the assessment is not a pass fail or you can't flunk it. It's just
you can't do it wrong.
You can't do it wrong.
You can't do it wrong.
That is the kind of test I've always wanted to take.
It takes like 20 or 30 minutes. You cannot do it wrong.
Whatever you answer is the right answer.
Yeah.
If you honestly answer it like you should and not how you think the person is looking for the answer.
Exactly. Good point. Thank you.
Yeah. Like, ooh, I want to sound like somebody that's really organized and does every detail. So I'm going to answer this, but it's not really me. So.
You got to be you. Be you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because everybody else is taken.
I love that. I know. I do love that. Yes.
And why, as Judy Garland says, why be a second-rate version of someone else when you can be a first-rate version of yourself?
I love that. That's good too.
That is good too. And you are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which he prepared beforehand so you can walk in them. So, don't mess it up. Be you with mercy, not judgment.
Yes.
Gail, this has been phenomenal, just as quality as I was expecting. Do you have any final words you want to leave the people with?
Whoever's listening to this podcast, I love you. And Dia is a blessing in my life. So I'm so thankful that you're listening to her words of wisdom as well, because they keep coming. So keep listening.
Ooh, I like that. I'll pay you later. Anyway, that's it for today on Here Where You Belong. I hope you have learned something new. I hope you're excited about the Kolbe method and you just want to connect with Gail to learn more about yourself or your child, or if you're a teacher, your students. This is valuable information. And until next time, this is Dia Irby with Here Where You Belong podcast. Bye now.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Here Where You Belong. We hope today's episode has inspired you to embrace the beauty of belonging in your own life. Remember, no matter where you are or where you're headed, you have a place where you truly belong. Join us again next time for more insightful conversations and heartwarming stories. Until then, stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember that you belong.